my dear friends, and welcome back to another video. So we just got chapter 3 of the Book of Boba Fett, the Streets of Mos Espa, and as always, we're going to break it all down. This episode was awesome, and between a small nod to the story of the faithful Wookiee, the episode slipping in a dank ferric, Boba Fett using his jetpack, and being introduced to a street gang, this chapter was a lot of fun. It had lots of cool references, callbacks, and Easter eggs, and I'm going to break down each and every one of them. My only gripe with this episode is that it just flew by and it was only 32 minutes long, and it set up what's to come, and we're going to be talking about what's to come in a very clever way, and I really cannot complain. As I say every week, my dear friends, I'm going to save my full review and thoughts for the end, so without much further ado, let's dive into the full episode breakdown. The episode starts with the shot of Jabba's palace that we first saw in the trailer. We see a Boma monk walking across the Dune Sea. Now, in case you don't know, the Boma monks were part of a religious order that believed in cutting themselves off from all physical sensation in order to enhance the power of their minds. Enlightened monks had their brains transplanted into nutrient-filled jars, and this is what we see in this episode, and also in Return of the Jedi. We then cut to 8D8, showing Boba and Fennec Shand a map of the territories and businesses that were protected under Jabba the Hutt, or should I say, as 8D8 mentions, the name that should not be spoken. What's very clear is that since the death of Jabba the Hutt and then Bib Fortuna, there was a power vacuum, and things have become very chaotic in Mos Espa. Under Bib Fortuna's watchful eye, Mos Espa was divided into 3 families, all of which, by the way, we do see in the trailer having a meeting with Boba and Fennec, but this is going to be in chapter 4 next week, directed by Kevin Tancherone, and I believe in light of the threat that's coming, and we're going to be speaking about this later, Boba is going to try and resolve this divide. But the problem that Boba Fett faces as the new daimyo, which is also confirmed by the Watermonger, is that nobody respects him. Boba is nowhere near as ruthless as Jabba or Bib Fortuna, because he simply does not exert the same fear-inducing tactics as a ruler. But the character arc that we're going to see Boba undertake, which we already began to in this episode, is trying to resolve that. This is brand new territory to Boba, and it's pretty clear that he's new to it. Adjusting to what others expect of him is a challenge. He even acknowledges that in a later scene that everyone is watching, waiting for him to make the next move. Now, going back to the Watermonger, whose name is Lortha Peel, the reason for visiting Boba is to tell him of a street gang who stole from his inventory, something the Watermonger claims would never have happened under Jabba or Bib. Now, this gang, who we meet in the next scene, is the one that includes Sophie Thatcher and Jordan Bolger, who play characters called Drash and Scad. This street gang is known for modifying their bodies with droid parts and cybernetics in order to make themselves more threatening and deadly. Now, I will say a lot of aspects of this episode are making me start to believe that some elements of that big plot leak might be true, but only some parts of it. And if it is true, then Drash, later on in the series, is going to be taken under Boba's wing as an apprentice. Boba Fett ironically teaches the Watermonger a lesson in who is boss, and inadvertently demands respect when he wipes out the street gang's debt and pays him only 500 of the 1300 that they owe. And Boba departs with the street gang, telling the Watermonger to cut his prices if he wants to continue doing business on Mos Espa. So Boba is finally starting to demand respect and showing them that he is daimyo. We then get a major callback to Return of the Jedi with a wart outside Jabba's palace. These creatures feast on small critters nearby, and just like the one that we see in episode 6, this one belches in the same manner. And you know what, guys? It's these little moments that connect the various parts of the Star Wars universe together. Now, the flashback portion of this episode thankfully was short, but it did come with a few surprises. For example, we got an extended version of the same Kamino flashback from last week, but the Tusken flashback was the most intriguing. Boba, wrapped up in his new Tusken robes, heads to Mos Eisley, and on his bantha, he walks the same roads as Mando did in The Mandalorian Season 1. It's here that we get such a cool Easter egg. We see Peli Motto herself being followed by her pit droids, a valuable ally to Mando in the first 2 seasons. She operates in these parts, and I think she's going to have a bigger role in a future episode of this series. On behalf of the Tuskens, Boba Fett visits the head of the Pike operations on Tatooine regarding protection arrangements. The leader informs him that they don't give to more than one party, and that the Kintan Striders, presumably on behalf of the Nikto gang, has already collected payment out on behalf of the same territory that Boba lays claim to. Now this is another awesome reference thrown into the dialogue. The Krrsantan Striders are a species that we first see as a Dedrick piece in A New Hope. We don't know their importance in this show, but I will say there's a small connection between the Krrsantan Striders and Kanji Club, the gang that we see in The Force Awakens. When Boba returns to the Tusken camp, they've been ambushed, and I really didn't see this coming. The entire tribe presumably have been killed. The tribe that took Boba in after his escape from the Sarlacc, and who in such a large way helped him become who he is today. It'd be interesting to see if there are any survivors of the Tusken tribe, but it's more likely that the entire tribe was killed. The image that this is meant to evoke is tragedy, that Boba has now got to move on, taking the lessons he learned from them and proceeding to combine them with his own identity. Following the ritual customs of the Tusken Raiders, Boba has a sentimental reflective moment and departs. That is where the flashbacks end, but I reckon in next week's set of flashbacks, we're more than likely going to see Boba try and enact revenge over the Nikto gang, and eventually he will reclaim the Slave One and then go after his armor. Back to the current day, Boba is given a surprise when Black Krrsantan attacks him from the Bacta pod. This was an epic, unexpected sequence because we got to see the menacing side to Black Krrsantan in live action. A real treat for comics fans. The street gang come to Boba's aid, and with Fennec's help, they trap Black Krrsantan as prisoner. Now while I love these scenes, I have a major issue with the way that they let him go once the Hutts arrive. The dialogue is written as if Black Krrsantan and Boba Fett have never met, which is definitely not the case. They have a history of working together under Vader and Jabba the Hutt, and that was a very hard thing to look past, but in context of the story, we kind of have to. The assassination attempt was unsurprisingly the doing of the Hutt Twins, who visit Boba, own up to their mistake, and offer him a tribute, a Rancor. We finally got it, guys. I knew that concept art wasn't deceiving us. We finally have a Rancor. It's not Moochie, it's a male Rancor, but boy did he look magnificent. They kept the design style consistent with the original Rancor Patissa from Return of the Jedi. And we even have a new Rancor Keeper, played by Danny Trejo. This is not a role I ever expected to see him in, but boy does it suit him so well, if I may say so myself. Now in the Rancor scene we get a couple of gems. The Rancor Keeper mentions that the witches of Dathomir once rode them, and when Boba expresses his wishes to ride it, he brings up that he's ridden creatures 10 times its size. Now this is a callback to the 1978 holiday special, where in an animated story called The Story of the Faithful Wookiee, Boba Fett rides a creature called the Pars Ichiodont in order to save Luke Skywalker. This is the creature he's talking about. It was an awesome scene, but the most important thing is what the Hutts say. They seemingly have no interest on Tatooine or getting involved with Boba. In fact, both parties were lied to. It appears as though there is a bigger villain behind this, and the Hutt's parting words before leaving for Nal Hutta are advising Boba to leave while he still can. The mayor, the Ithorian mayor, has sided with the Pikes, who are trying to gain a bigger foothold on Tatooine. But here's the thing, guys, I'm 100% convinced that this is a misdirect. Even Fennec says this is just the first wave. The Pikes are definitely a big part of this. We see them arrive in droves on Tatooine, but they did not work in isolation, and other syndicates are coming. What I'm saying is, the Pikes are part of something bigger. They're not working alone. My guess is still Crimson Dawn, led by Qi'ra, who is a massive figure in the Shadow Collective of various syndicates, following the death of Darth Maul. So this episode, and the purpose of it, is the setup for what's coming. I should also mention that in the chase sequence, we see the same fruit that we saw in Star Wars Rebels, which is known as the Maelorun fruit. Things are truly going to pick up from now on, and I think we're in for something huge. Now, as for my review, I absolutely loved it. You guys hear me say this every single week, but I mean it. I'm loving how this story is unfolding before our eyes. I know there's going to be a lot of people who won't be pleased with this chapter, but we must take a page out of Obi-Wan's book and enact patience. This was a great transitionary episode that's going to lead into next week. And I think, just as the producers and the director of photography said, once we reach chapter 5, there are so many huge surprises. I wish this episode was longer, but once all 7 chapters are out, in retrospect, it will go down as a great episode that was the turning point for the season, moving us from predominantly flashbacks into a show that focuses on the current day Boba Fett. And that's something we all want more of. So I'm going to give this episode a solid 8 out of 10, maybe even 8.5. And out of all 3 chapters we've had so far, this is the one that makes me most excited for what's to come next week. Trust me when I say Boba Fett is going to be up against some major adversity. Ming-Na Wen and Temuera Morrison have talked about major characters coming in, and this episode makes me think it's going to be sooner than we think. The Pikes and the Hutts were just the start. There is so much more to this, and villains working in the shadows that have yet to reveal themselves. But those are my thoughts and the breakdown, but I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments down below. I'm curious to hear all of your thoughts. Did you like this one? Did you dislike it? Why so or why not? If you like this breakdown, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're brand new, and a massive welcome if you are. We're on the road to 100,000 subscribers. And also, if you want more videos from me that are not found here on YouTube, including reaction videos, Megasodes, Star Wars Explained videos, and so much more, then click the link down there. That is the link to my Patreon page. But otherwise, my dear friends, I will be speaking more about this episode in the week to come. I will be breaking down different elements of this episode. But until then, may the Force be with you all. I'm Star Wars Meg. Have a good one.